Okay, so thank you once again for having me here, all the participants. I was just told that a large number of people are participating with diverse institutions. I was told about 30 of them. So appreciate your participation. And it's when the discussion came about my talking about what theme I wanted to talk, I choose to talk on new education policy at 3. In fact, I should say 3.5 because it's in July 24, it become 4. And where does it stand and where do we go from here? I'm sure that the NEP has been a topic of discussion at multiple places on multiple occasions and different perspectives, but I'm sure some of it may be something which you already know. Yeah, so generally I start my talk by quoting Emerson, and who said, "Our knowledge is the immersed thought and experience of innumerable minds." By this, I acknowledge a lot of learning I did by listening to people, reading what people have written, and giving my perspective. In a way, it's acknowledgement to the learning I did, and much of it which I talk is nothing of my own, but it's what I learned and gathered from others. With that acknowledgement, let's move towards India of our dreams. All of us dream of our country. 2047 is not very far off. We want India, which is economically developed, scientifically advanced, and militarily strong, and where the human development index is very high, and there is security, not only about energy, water, food and nutrition, environment and health. But then this is the reality of India. If you just take people with cell phones in India, there are 77% of the population has smartphones. Maybe my data could be a little old and the number can be a little higher. So we are all very happy about this development. But at the same time, you can see the people with access to safe water, for example, is 334 million Indians still lack access to safe water supply. So you can see the contrast of the development India is going through. So if you want to achieve what India in your dreams to be, it is possible only if India becomes a knowledge-driven economy. And you should have the ability to develop new knowledge and also appropriate knowledge developed in other countries. And vital for developing globally competitive technologies is to have the frontiers in science and technology. We need to have excellence in higher education, research, technology development led by R&D, and innovation backed by manufacturing. The strategy is technology maximization and time minimization. I'm sure that this graph you would have seen, the way newer domains are emerging. Today, everyone talks about artificial intelligence. India is making progress on quantum computing, blockchains, robotics, and IoT. But then the cloud computing, mobile learning, tablet computing, and so on. And what is important is that all these technologies individually and in synergy are very relevant to a country like us. And I just picked up about future jobs. I'm sure there may be some students who may be attending or the faculty who handle students. This is the way how newer opportunities are coming. And what is important, you can see the new thing that is emerging is called care economy. As the population becomes elderly, this care economy becomes important, and you can see all other things, and also green technology is another thing which is happening. This is where the newer jobs are likely to be there. And the job landscape is always changing with the growth of job demand in data analysis, data analytics, AI, big data. And some places it is coming down, where routine jobs like data entry clerics, administrative, these are all going down and some are increasing. And the skill sets that are required are also changing. With every 5 years, you can see within 5 years, what was important then is becoming less important today. And you can see people management, coordination with others, creativity. These are all becoming important for the to become skilled in the 21st century. So the challenge is the skill gaps continue to be high as in-demand skills across jobs change. That is because the job are changing, and so must be people's skilling levels has to be there, and hence the gap will come. The online learning and training is on the rise. The window of opportunity to reskill and upskill workers have become shorter. That means in a very quick time, you need to learn these new technologies and need to provide stronger support for reskilling and upskilling. I'm sure all the faculty members also must be facing this challenge of how do I upskill myself as a faculty member when ChatGPT things like are challenging you and challenging every one of us will be there. Well, we talk about Industry 4.0, all these things about IoT, robotics, big data analytics, cybersecurity, all additive manufacturing, they're all taking industry to the next level. Healthcare, we are challenged to provide affordable quality healthcare to our citizens. The social sciences play an important role because the public acceptance of modern technologies are becoming important. So absorbing newer development, conflicts that are coming because the development versus conservation, that's where the social sciences play very important role. The advancement in basic sciences lays the foundation for these developments, and the frontiers in science and technology are vital for development of globally competitive technologies. When world is getting adjusted to this industry 4.0, now we are talking about an approach which is human-centric, sustainable, and resilient, and that's where industry 5.0 is talking about. Now, with this background, this is how the skill sets are, requirement of skill sets are changing, and this is how newer domains are to be explored. So we need to prepare the students for these challenges. Our country has a large youth population with growing aspirations. So we need to sustain the growth based on knowledge, resources, and capabilities. This is where academic institutions will play a major role in nurturing the young talents into becoming future leaders. So academic institutions lays foundation for the society's creativity, prosperity, and cultural development, and hence must have a creative environment in which foundations for overall development are laid. And that is the crucial role the academic institutes will play, and the faculty members have to implement this and have to take it forward. Wisdom and knowledge complement each other. What are the primary challenges in India's higher education sector? I was mentioning about skilling issue. There's always a gap between knowledge and jobs match. And India is one of the largest pool of graduates in the world. But the crisis is many of them are either unable or not skilled enough to enter the workforce. A mismatch between the knowledge and skills imparted and the jobs that are available. And the numbers are frightening. 75% of technical people are not skilled, and 85% of gender graduates lack the necessary skills. So the answer to all this thing is to build the vocational skills when they are studying. Our higher education system in India, I'm sure which all of us are part of it, are major issues. One is the fragmented system. There's a less emphasis on development of cognitive skills and learning outcomes, a rigid separation of disciplines with very early specialization. I'm a person who's not very comfortable with early specialization, but yeah, I can see BE in cybersecurity, BE in whatnot. And so these early specializations is another challenge which we all have to play. And limited access, particularly in socio-economically disadvantaged areas. It is not that educational institutions are available equally. So you need to go to cities to find a good educational institution. There's always less emphasis on research and lack of competitive peer-reviewed research funding. I'm sure many of the faculties who are listening to me will realize the challenge of getting funding for their research. And the large affiliating universities, This is another big problem which we face, resulting in low standards of undergraduate education. If a university has to manage 300, 250 institutions, you can see what would happen. So when I was preparing for this talk, I was very hesitant to put these two cartoons, but I thought the first one, all of us will agree. You can see this is what are we making them what they should be after coming out of it. I'm sure this can be hurting some of us who are listening to it, but that seems to be the order of the day. So this is where the new education policy has come, NEP 2020. It seeks to address the entire gamut of education, right from preschool to doctoral studies, professional degrees to vocational training, urban as well as rural India. It's like all encompassing directive from the as a policy making. It is based on two committees. I'm sure the Committee of Evaluation of NEP, chaired by T.S.R. Subramaniam. It started in 2016, and in 2018, a panel headed by Kasturi Rangan who reviewed it, and that's how NEP 2020 has become a reality in July 3 years back. But the first national policy of education was proclaimed in 1968. Is based on the recommendation of the Education Commission 64 to 66. The second one was in 1986. It was re-examined and it was in 1992. That means it is not that the first time NEP, education policy is being done, but this education policy has the speciality of covering all the aspects of education. It aims, what does it aim now? It aims to making education system holistic, flexible and multidisciplinary. And it is aligned to the needs of 21st century and also help us in achieving the sustainable development goals of 2030. So academic, vocational and extracurricular to be given equal footing. I'm sure that it's very important that extracurricular activities have to be given equal footing. They should not be anymore called extra. They should be part of the curriculum, part of your system, and fully focused on students. And if they have any interest in any field or area, they can develop the skills and preparing them to be ready to face the real world situations. That is what is the focus of education. That's what NEP 2020 focuses. So a statement can be made, every student should have a choice of concurrent education and training in all learning domains, including opportunities to do so across the disciplines. In fact, I will add across the institutions. I should be able to study even at different institutions in a given time of a choice made by the students. Affordability, accessibility, quality, equity, and accountability is to ensure, and these are all required to ensure continual learning for the students. We need to focus on making education socially relevant and also inclusive. India is a very diverse country, and the education we impart should absorb the diversity and bring homogeneity as a part of learning. We need to give local flavor in imparting education in terms of cultural and technological needs. I'm sure the cultural needs of one part of Telangana or the other part of Telangana may be different, or all Telugu speaking areas will not have a similar cultural background. So we need to take this diversity and then ensure that while you're imparting the education. Now, what is the situation now? Now we have multiple names of universities: central universities, state universities, deemed university, private universities, institutions of national importance, agricultural universities, and so on. The diverse names are there. Each one is recognized by a particular authority. So as on 25th January 2023, I could not find the latest statistics. The total number of universities in India is 1074. With state universities 460, deemed to be 128, and central 56, private 430. I'm sure the numbers have substantially changed in the last 1 year. So what NEP envisaged is, let's not call all these higher education institutions be called universities instead of calling by different names. Well, has it happened? It's yet to be realized. And there are several professional councils of UGC. I just listed 15 of them. I'm sure many of you must be interacting with some of these councils. They're also enhanced technical education are supplemented by a number of professional engineering bodies, societies, like all these institutions of engineers and so on. There are professional societies in other disciplines also, because much of it is deflected by engineering. So the professional standard bodies have to become, their role is going to change as far as the NEP is concerned. And the institution, the universities, when it comes to universities, you can call them as research intensive or teaching intensive, or they will be autonomous degree granting college. I'm sure Chaitanya must be one of them, the autonomous degree granting colleges. So what the NEP envisages is that we need to phase out the affiliating colleges over a period of 15 years through a system of graded autonomy. So we'll have institutions which will be degree awarding autonomous institutions. No more affiliation would happen. So this is one thing which will happen. And the single stream higher education institutions to be phased out. That means we will not have one medical university, one technical university, one agriculture university. So what is being envisaged is we'll have vibrant multidisciplinary institutions, which we call, this is what will happen in the future. And what we are calling as, what they call it as a Meru, I'm sure that multidisciplinary education and research universities are the way forward. You will not have one focused institutions will be there, so which can be like IITs or IIMs. You must have seen many of the IITs are starting medical education and social sciences already in several of the IITs to go along with this multidisciplinary learning and aim to attain highest global standards in quality education. So by 2030, it is envisaged that every district will have at least one large multidisciplinary HEI. This is a little ironical because even though we have 1,200 and odd institutions, universities in this country, there are 700, 800 districts are there, but you can still see that several districts do not have a higher education institution. So, and hence NEP envisages that by 2030, we'll have at least one large multidisciplinary higher education institution in every district. Well, NEP also trying to look at the managing the education system. They're going to replace UGC and AICT by single Higher Education Commission of India. This Higher Education Commission of India will have 4 verticals, one for regulation, other is for funding, other is for accreditation, and other is the General Education Council, which is setting the standards. I'm sure if you are in institutions like Chaitanya, accreditation is a challenge. Every alternate month or every alternate week, some committee will be visiting you, either NAC or NBA. So many things are there. Now they're going to bring them together and the funding. So these are all what envisaged, but somehow they kept the medical education and the legal education separate from this. I hope not too far from now, they also become part of it. So all existing professional and research councils, which I showed you a while ago about multiple of them, right from agriculture to architecture, will now be called professional standard setting bodies, setting standards in a particular field of learning. This is what is envisaged in NEP. But today we are still in the process of being realized. At least for funding, something significant happened by Parliament passing the research funding agency. Very significant part of NEP 2020 is we move from 3-year degree to 4-year degree. If you are in an engineering, you will say, what is new, sir? This is nothing new. There is a 4-year program, but it's a multiple exit and entry options are there. This is where a lot of challenge in understanding the consequences and the way it can be implemented. It's a certificate, diploma, degree, and an honors degree. If an honors degree, if you do a 4-year degree program, you can go for your PhD research program. You can pursue it, and this is a very important thing. And there's something like major minor system in degrees allowing students the option of multidisciplinary choice. If, for example, if a design student can study physics, or if a mechanical engineer can study culinary arts in a university, you can see how different things can be learned together. The 2 years master degrees will continue without changes. MPhil has gone, MPhil has been abolished. And if you do a 4-year 4 degree program in science, you will probably do 1 year of PG. That means an advantage of the students will be there. Of course, there are a lot of challenges in implementing or in realizing these multiple exit entry and options. One, the curriculum has to be changed substantially. If you're teaching engineering, you would realize, you will agree with me that the first year of engineering, there's no engineering at all. And what is being taught in first year is hardly any engineering. So you need to modify this curriculum. And the biggest question is, what will the student do after exiting? These are all something which we need to think. The culture of gaining working experience and coming back to pursue higher studies is not very popular in our country. It's very common in the Western countries. They take a break, work for a while, come back and study. You hardly see people coming back to learning after they exit and join a job. There's another very important thing happened is called academic bank of credits. This is digitally store your records. The government of India has created, UGC created a platform where you can register your institutions. You can also register your courses. Every student can register here, and you can say, I'm sure all of you must be familiar with this. You can see the numbers are phenomenal. About 6.23 crore number of students have registered on this, and 1725 institutions have registered, and 490 institutions have credit data uploaded, and you can see 17.5 lakh unique student credit awards seeded to ABC IDs, 34 lakh number of records with credit data mapped with ABC Academic Bank Credits ID. And what does it give? It gives a lot of flexibility for student to move from one institute to other institutions by carrying with them the learning they've done in the previous institutions. And it's a very significant thing for the students. Of course, there are challenges. How do you take them? How do you harmonize them? How to homogenize their learning? They're all challenges, but I'm sure that people can move they carry with them the learning they've done in one academic institutions to go to the second academic institutions. I was talking about vocational education. I think it is important that if you want to bridge the skill gap, the vocational streams to be given much importance as in the academic streams, as much importance as academic streams. You have to integrate them into school and higher education institutions. The focus should be on the skill gap analysis and mapping the local opportunities. That is something which we need to pay. The curriculum has to be aligned with the National Skills Qualification Framework competency. One very important thing which the NUP says is that every higher educational institution must provide vocational courses, and that are integrated into UG programs. You can see there's a polytechnic, there is a diploma engineering institutions are there, then the degree programs are there. I think we need to bring them together under one umbrella. And to pave the way, the progress is there. The Ministry of Education and Skill Development and Entrepreneurship signed a large number of MOUs with different institutions for providing skill sets to students. These partnerships with public and private will foster innovation, research, and knowledge exchange between the institutions. This bear more towards students able to learn newer skills. Of course, the challenge is lack of popularity of vocational training, and is always we look at the people with vocational training not equal to you. The blue collarization of vocations in this society is a challenge which we need to address if you wanted to impart skills to the students. And the government said there's a need for national testing agency. And this testing agency, there's a need for assessing competency of candidates, both for admission into the institutions and also recruitment for a challenge, recruitment for a job. And this has always been a challenge in terms of matching the research-based international standards, efficiency, transparency, and error-free delivery. And to realize that the National Testing Agency has been established, it's a premier, specialist, autonomous, and self-sustained testing organization to conduct the entrance examination, both for admissions, fellowships, and even for jobs. You can see already it is there. Several of the premier institutions enable this, make use of these national testing agencies like JEE, NEET, NET, CMAT, QET, or whatever. I'm sure that all of you must be familiar with this. So this has become a reality now. Now, we also set affordability, accessibility, and equity in ensuring continued learning. In order to address these concerns of equity, we need to provide online learning resources. I'm sure that all of you are familiar with SWAYAM, on the online portal by the government, be it NPTEL. So what is important is the credits associated with the course will be given to the student and considered in their assessment for the degree course also. This is a very significant change which will reduce the workload of the faculty members. And the MOOCs, there's a large number of courses are available. Already 295 universities have adopted these SWAYAM courses, and more than 19 lakh students have availed them. Not only in India, these courses are being utilized by several students from various countries, various other countries, starting from Australia, Argentina, Brazil to so whatnot. Many places, including United States, people are making use of these courses. And National Education Technology Forum is, if you want to make online learning, if you want to make digital technology to be used for learning, we need to create a platform for where the free exchange of ideas on the use of technology for enhanced learning, assessment, planning, and administration. So for both schools and higher education. My talk is focused most on higher education, but maybe schools, there's always a requirement to look at school education in a little different perspective. So we need to create digital infrastructure, digital content, and the capacity building to share them, emphasis on online education, better integration of technology-based education platforms like Diksha, SWAYAM, awareness on disruptive technologies, make use of them to transform the education system, because you can see that the learning can happen in a much more equitable way. The National Educational Technology Forum is already in place. It is being headed by a very eminent person, Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe. Till some time back, he was the chairman of AICT. Now, these are all, they are paving the way for virtual or digital universities in this country. The higher education institutions have to create a roadmap with the models of learning and teaching once it becomes an online learning. And you need all these things, including the ICT and virtual technologies, to enable the country to move towards the idea of digital universities. And NEP envisages that we should create an open, interoperable, evolvable public digital infrastructure in the education sector. And you all must be knowing there's already one digital university in Kerala. It says creating a responsible digital world. Digital universities aims towards to be the prime mover of the knowledge revolution in the country by focusing on research and education in science, technology, and humanities. That's what is important, which are relevant to the digital world. Well, every institutions have to establish the departments of translation and interpretation, literature, Indology, language, music, art, dance, theater. You need to involve outstanding local artists, writers, craftspersons as masters and master instructors with local expertise. The quality research in the field of Indian languages, art and culture. I'm sure this are all those who have heard the inauguration of the Ayodhya temple. You will see how much of science has gone into art and technology, culture has gone into building the temple. Well, language policy, and it says that let us learn up to class 5 in your mother tongue. So UGC is really pushing this of creating large number of books in the local languages. And hence, there's a very good opportunity for faculty members to get into creating these books, the translation of books into Indian knowledges. In fact, UGC has come out with an invite for those of you who are interested to translate the books. Please approach the UGC website and then do that. But then the institutions are suffering to have, and in terms of shortage of manpower. Now we create that we need to, every institute should have faculty members representing many other domains. These are challenges and yet to be realized to be there. The other thing which is very neglected in our country is teacher education. There are no uniform standards for teacher education. So what is envisaged is the minimum degree qualification for teaching will be a 4-year integrated education degree. All the universities and colleges have to establish the education departments, the BED programs in collaboration with other departments. So every institute, tomorrow Chaitanya should have, I do not know whether Chaitanya has an education program, but they should create what will happen. So as a first step towards it is that, in the doctoral studies, during your PhD time, all the PhD students, irrespective of discipline, need to take the credit-based courses, both teaching, education, pedagogy, writing related to their chosen PhD subjects. That means you're preparing these PhD students for becoming faculty members. The strengthening of in-service continuous professional development for faculty is very important. I'm sure the faculty development program, like what is being organized, is in that as a part of this development will be there. But then whether education programs have become integrated or they're yet to be realized will be there. There's several key initiatives are there. There's something called Professor of Practice. I'm sure your institution also will have a lot of these professors of practice will be there. And I just look at the website and they said today the number of registered experts are 12,738 and about 374 institutions told they would like to engage them. You can see these numbers are increasing very significantly as a function of time, and we should make use of that. The other thing is that how do you prepare the students for the real-time societal problems? So we need to foster social responsibility and community engagement, which I'm calling as 2.0. The educational institutions have a social responsibility. I'm sure Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, which is already part of many institutions, and UB, Unnat Bharat Abhiyan 2.0, it aims to bring a transformative changes in rural development. And the student goes there and interact with the people, they realize the reality and the challenges they face, and then they can correct themselves in their learning to find solutions to the problems being faced. And this is where the active participation of the higher education institutions, the rural communities, and the reorientation of communities to research and development. And this is very important component of learning and preparing students for the real world. So if I just put together as a university, you have the faculty, you have technical people, administrative, managerial, and each one has a role to play. The faculty, especially in teaching, research, and service. If you're a technical person, laboratories and service. And if you're an administrative, there's several administrative responsibilities of variety are available. And if you're in managerial role, you need to play a leadership role. And students, when it comes to students, you have orientation and training becomes a challenge. The faculty has to be oriented or given training in communication still, and also in enabling them to learn technology, be it multimedia or animation. Very often we think using PowerPoint is using technology. It's very rudimentary technology is what is PowerPoint. There's multimedia, animation, which plays a big role. And when it comes to research, if you push the faculty to do research, how do they do research? It is very important to enable them to identify newer domains of research that are emerging. In fact, that's where the funding will be. And identify them and also enable them to get the skill sets for pursuing that research. This is something many academic institutions lack. Since I have not visited your institution, I do not know what you do to enable the faculty. Of course, publications, which are something which everybody is pushed, You have to have publications, but also you have to make an impact with your publication. If you want to develop advanced technologies, it goes via research, development, and the delivery. This is where research, industry, academia collaboration becomes very important. And all the sections of society should be included, especially the disadvantaged section when you are delivering the technology. And it should be interface for the industry development. This collaboration should be there. So the academic institution, the collaborations are between industry, R&D laboratories, and the academic institution, both national and international. We need to promote newer ideas that are to be generated by collaboration, raise the level of research productivity, and the interaction with the broader range of highly trained personnel when you go to industry or R&D with more diverse backgrounds and interest. Make to learn different cultures, methodologies, beneficial in improving our thinking and working pattern. When you go to an industry or when you work in an R&D lab for a while, I'm sure every faculty should be permitted to take 1 or 2 months off from their university or institution and then spend time at the R&D laboratory or in industry to learn these things and get this exposure. Many of the industry personnel will be very happy to be associated with academic institutions. I'm sure that your institution is trying or your institutions are trying. You need to approach them. The fostering collaboration with national and international laboratories is the key for enhancing ourselves. And that is where the NEP also focus on. I was mentioning about research and development is such an important thing. So government has formulated a National Research Foundation, which has become a law passed by the parliament. It will seed, grow and promote R&D, foster a culture of research and innovation throughout India's universities, colleges, research institutions and R&D laboratories. This is what is significant. In spite of all the talking we do, India hardly spends 0.7% of its GDP for R&D. Just look at the numbers of the other countries, even smaller countries like Malaysia or Egypt, and you can see the GDP percentage GDP that spends. Today, India spends so much less on it, and it has to be enhanced. Another challenge which you will have is that the funding is not available to the private institutions. I think this is one problem which will be solved by this NRF. The bill was necessary because it is not treating the funding equally with all other institutions. And it's an apex body. I think they said 50,000 crores is what is given for 5 years. And 10,000 crores will come from government, and that is a small catch in it. Is the remaining has to come from the private sector. It will be done by DST, Ministry of Science and Technology, the government board with PM as ex officio president, and the Union Minister of Science and Technology. You can see the importance that are being given. Of course, the Executive Council will have by principal scientific advisor to the Government of India. What will it do? I think it will prioritize the research funding and ensure that scientific research is conducted and funded equitably. This is something which I'm emphasizing. Today, IITs and IIScs receive majority of research funding, whereas state universities receive a very little portion, about 10% of it. And if it comes to private institutions, it's much lesser. It will also enable forging collaborations. It will also create a policy framework and putting in place a regulatory process to encourage collaboration and increase spending by the industry on R&D. Now, this is the pedagogical approach of evaluating reforms. See, after all, you have to teach, you have to evaluate. And this is where our ancient Guru Shishya Parampara scheme is very, very pertinent. It's a holistic development, one-to-one knowledge transfer, informal environment, establishment of skill, empowerment, building self-confidence. But then the challenge is to integrate the Indian traditional value-based education with the present technology-dominated teaching and learning process. This is where the biggest challenge when you talk about ancient Indian knowledge systems. I'm sure a lot of work is progressing in developing pedagogy that makes education more experiential, holistically be there. Now, then, in spite of all the changes that are happening, the importance of teachers is more significant in modern society. This is where we should not miss out on connecting to the students or being there. I still recall the school where I studied. in 1972. The headmaster, whenever I go there, he still remembers. We lost him 2 years back, but I still remember the bonding which we had with the teachers. I'm sure as a faculty members, one of the important thing is to get connected to the students, and this is where the importance of teachers is there. Of course, I'm sure that you all would have gone through the challenge. The UGC says every institution should have a development plan. And they're given some guidelines, because if you want to achieve the outcomes from your learning, the education institution should have a plan. And I'm not going to read the entire thing. They have given a guidelines how your institutional development plan should be. You tell us what you would like to do, both in terms of how do you function, how do you plan to grow, how do you plan to sustain, how do you manage your resources, and this is how this institutional development plan has been. And I'm sure all of you would have submitted this. Your plans will be there. The other new development is the internationalization of the education. That means you allow foreign universities to come into this country. Both the university, the student and faculty mobility should happen. And this will lead to infusion of international perspective and innovation. And it also aims at making the Indian education system more efficient and competitive. There are already several foreign higher education institutions collaborate with Indian institutions. Collaboration is already happening, but it is a going next step of creating an institutions from the foreign institutions to be having their campuses in this country. You can see the Australians, Deccan and Wollongong universities have already started they will have their campuses in GIFT. HEIs like BITS and Amity have their campuses overseas already. BITS are there, and there are several Indian universities are moving towards setting up the campuses in other countries. Not only other institutions come here, we should also go out. IIT Madras has already had a branch in Tanzania, and IIT Delhi is going to have a campus in Abu Dhabi, and in this year, probably they will start there. IIT Madras campus already started, I guess, and the IIT Delhi one will start in this academic year, and more will come. And the institutions, like I mentioned about this Tanzania one, I think this is where the other thing is there is that the IIT Delhi is planning the Dubai campus will have PG courses. The University of Mumbai has a very elaborate comprehensive MOU. I'm sure more to come, and this is where both our institutions going outside and establishing campuses, and the other institutions from outside abroad comes and establish their campuses in India, and this is where the homogeneity would happen. And if you want to achieve all these things, the vibrant campus life is essential for high quality teaching and learning processes. I think very often in a country like ours, we need to have campuses where faculty live on the campus, the students will live on campus, so that the 2 hours or 3 hours of traveling they do for corners of going in Hyderabad can be avoided, for example. I think so. We need to have vibrant campus. There should be quality of and engagement of faculty. It's very important that important factors in success of higher education institutions. How do you take care of your faculty? You need to make faculty members happy, enthusiastic, and motivated towards advance the students and institution. I had the opportunity of interacting with several faculty members whenever I visit some institution, either to give a talk or for some review. I talk to this faculty. Are they happy? I would put a question mark at. So we need to make them happy. You need to empower the faculty to conduct innovative teaching, research, and services, and incentivize the excellence of faculty. How are we incentivizing the faculty who does well? This is something which every management has to think about it. And when you incentivize, we need to have a policy. What will you incentivize for? And there should be a clear policy, independent and transparent process of criteria for faculty recruitment. Especially in the private institution, this is a challenge. How do you recruit the people? How do you promote them? These are all very transparent procedures should be there. And when I was the registrar of the university, whenever when a faculty joins, I used to meet them on the first day and tell them, get to know them, what is their aspirations. And I also tell them what the university can do for it. We need to have that dialogue. and more importantly, have a transparent process. We need to have fast track promotion system. I see a lot of faculty or assistant professor for 7, 8 years or 10 years. We need to have a mechanism of fast track promotion. Of course, it is based on high impact research and contributions of the faculty. It's not nothing will come free, but it should have a procedure should be there. There are issues now. Having said all these things, what is the situation in this country? A large number of faculty vacancies are there. The estimate puts about 75,000 in the central and state universities. I'm not talking about the private institutions. These are the vacancies that are available in the central and state institutions. When it comes to IIMs and IITs, there is very, very challenging. You can see the 1/3 of total sanctioned teaching posts are still not filled. Across India, the exploitative conditions in some of the private institutions, it's better to talk less about it. You all know that there are all challenges when it comes to private institutions. What are the challenges in NEP implementation? Well, if you want to do all what I said, you need large number of resources out there. And today, the government envisages 6% of GDP to be put on education. Where do we stand today, whereas for the government investments are concerned? An estimate indicates that between 2014-15 to 19-20, the share of education expenditure fell from 4.1% to 3.4%. If you go by the inflation, that means the fall is much more. See, when you talk about 6%, it's not only NEP 2020 which is telling. It was telling on Kothari Commission, which is said way back in 1964, it said it should be 6%, it will be there. So normally, new thing which the NEP look about it is the public philanthropic partnership is being envisaged to get funding for the education sector. Language policy is another challenge. We want to learn your mother tongue, but it will pose challenge to the mobility of students in a large and diverse country like India. In fact, what is the mother tongue itself can be a question. I'm born in Andhra, worked for majority of my time in life in Karnataka, in Tamil Nadu, and now I'm in Karnataka. Now I wonder what would be my language. So these are all challenges which the country like India has. And this is a federal system. Education is in a concurrent list. It's always a problem. The moment an opposition party comes to the power, the first thing they do is that they will not implement NEP. This is something I hope it doesn't happen in Telangana. So this is where I think these are all challenges when it comes to implementation. There's several key initiatives government is taking, which is called Maulya Pravaha. I think there's a lot of government is doing enormous work in creating mechanisms of realizing. I'm just not going to read many of these things, I know, in terms of higher education qualification framework, guidelines for promotion of many things which are available on the sites will be there. Now, I also saw that, the focus of this FDP is on outcome-based education. See, that every faculty member will struggle between course outcomes and program outcomes. What knowledge, skills, values students will be able to demonstrate through presentation, discussion, action, or in projects and assignments. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the course outcomes. You have to define your course outcomes and what are the program outcomes, what are the knowledge or skills that a student should possess will acquire after a course. And the challenge is, how do you define these people, these things? This is where I am sure that a lot of workshops are conducted in ensuring the course outcome, project outcomes. The information and abilities that students will have acquired by the period they have gotten their desired education is what is the challenge. But you can see a ceramic science student will join an IT industry. So you can see the challenge which we have here is that what skill set we are talking about when the people study something and go and start working in somewhere else. So these are the challenges which we have to face. Now we are moving towards from course outcome, program outcomes to outcome-based education. I think now the government UGC is telling, please focus on outcomes. When the student is graduate, what is the outcome of what he has learned? By the end of the educational experience, each student would have achieved a goal. But what are those goals? How do you enable the student to reach these goals is the challenge which all the faculty members must be struggling. But I'm sure that some of the faculty members, some of the resource persons will talk more in detail about these outcome-based education and how it can help. But it is a struggle to the faculty members. First is to enable student to listen to you. And there's so much of a problem in getting the attention for larger duration, and with the Google is there and so much of online content that is available freely, the faculty are struggling to get the attention of the students. Now we are imposing, not we let us aim that the student become equipped in this when he or she graduates. So these are the challenges which the faculty members having. So I want to put together as in higher education institutions, you have academics, you have research, I mentioned about collaboration, and of course, if you are in institutions, you need to do branding because you need to outreach, getting connected to all state of society. I'm sure this has become part of every institution's responsibility of branding them. And of course, teaching, learning, and learning outcomes is what I just went on. In academics, you have to do research in emerging areas, and you have to ensure the students are equipped to handle real life problems. That is where Unnat Bharat Abhiyan like schemes will be very useful. And of course, you should have a newer ways of introducing of learning like practice schools at different years, not only one time, maybe every year students should spend some time elsewhere. And this is where the academic institutions, industry, R&D collaboration becomes very important. So it's such a very diverse challenges for an higher education institution, and much of it has to be done by the faculty members. Now, the students had provided with internship opportunities. I'm sure that this is another guideline at the NEP. People should go to internships. Then you should go to local industry, businesses, artists, craft person. You don't have to do with only in technology. You should also do in all these things to get connected to the society. When it comes to student, ecosystem of imparting education, at the center is the student. And you have what the student will do. One is learning, acquiring knowledge, skill sets, and to evolve as a better person. That is the ultimate the requirement of becoming educated is to become a better person and contributing to the well-being of the society and people. When you become an educated, this is what is the importance for you, and you have to enhance the quality of life. And when it comes to, I put parents also, because in India, somehow education is a parent-sponsored system. So a lot of parents spend money in educating their children. So because of this, you have the aspirations of the parents. We have to take care of their aspirations, their societal expectations, and of course, well-being of the student. This is something parents will put. Of course, the society, the R&D labs, the industry, governmental organizations, and these are all things which will be there. Of course, faculty, when you say teaching, research, mentoring, and service, I'm sure each of you must have been involved in some activity or other, be it NIRF, NPA, or whatever. I think you can see that every faculty member is associated with managing the institution that I'm calling as a service. So you can see the ecosystem of imparting education is such a involved process with multiple stakeholders are there. Of course, you also have government, regulators, competitors, management, support system. Now, why I say regulators, because you may be conducting FTP, but tomorrow when you go to NBA or an act, they'll say you should have done like this. So these are where regulators' role will come. The accreditation bodies will play a role. So these are all have to be absorbed by the academic institutions right from the beginning so that they can perform better. Why are we doing all these things? We're all doing this because we want to create highly motivated and skilled human resources. These are all important for us. I'm telling you, motivated people with skill sets which are there, which are important. And this is to achieve progress in all domains. So this is something what education is about. Well, I just put this cartoon from the net. The change process is always a challenge. There will be always people who would like to have the status quo. You join an institution and you learn something and say, I would like to do the same thing. The change will always come with resistance, there'll be chaos, the transforming idea will be accepted, it gets integrated, and then you now start new status quo. And with time, every status quo has to be challenged and will be changed. So we need to invest time in understanding change management. As the academic institutions go through the change process because of new education policy, you need to see how you can position yourself. Human behavior is very complex. All of you agree with me that we are very complex individuals. Not to overlook the effects of changes in the employees. If you're an HOD, if you're a director of an institution, if you want to bring a change, you would see the challenge in imposing those, implementing those. Applying even a small change can impact. Even simple things like using, instead of this software, use this software will create a lot of change. So you need to prepare the people for this change management. In fact, if some of you are in a leadership position, please remember the change process requires preparing the people for the change. Without that, just by authority, you cannot bring the change. That's where efficient human resource HR is vital. And with the uncertainty of job losses and need for reskilling, in fact, if you're a faculty member who are 10-year-old or 15-year-old, now you have to go to the computer science class and teach. You know what are the challenges which you have. The way it is taught is completely changed. The subjects have been changed. So the skilling, reskilling is very important. That's where every academic institution should have very effective HR, which will coordinate in imparting skill sets or training to the faculty members. Well, I want to quote what Vivekananda said about it. I wanted to put this at the end because what Vivekananda said decades back is, we want that education by which character is formed, strength of mind is increased, and the intellect is expanded, and by which one can stand on one's own feet. And Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, I'm sure that all of us quote him. Knowledge is not something to be packed away in some corner of our brain, but what enters into our being, colors our emotion, haunts our soul, and is also close to us as itself. Why am I quoting these two people? If you talk about NEP, if you talk about the changes we discussed so far, just imagine what Vivekananda said decades back is what, after 75 years of independence, after so many years of learning education system in this country, we're still struggling to implement, to realize the dreams of what people becoming self-sufficient or be there. This is what I think it'll be there. Of course, whenever we start doing something new, it's always a challenge. That which we persist in doing becomes easier. That's what Emerson said. Not that the nature of the task has changed, but our ability to do has increased. I'm very fond of quoting Emerson in my talks. This is where all of us will realize that once, if you go through the process, your ability will increase. I'm sure when educational institutions want to grow and enhance the quality, the process of change, we will have to go through it and hence become stronger. Well, all of us want to progress, including educational institutions, individuals. I think direction is more important than the speed. Many are going fast, but maybe in wrong direction. Of course, this may not be, some of you may say that I'm not agreeing with me, but I think this is where a calibration has to be made by each of us at the individual level and each institution at the institution level to see, are we moving in the right direction? The speed comes secondary. And this probably, with this, I'll stop and I'll thank you for your attention.